my buddy from way back in the day and for all these years, Mike Mayock, back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Michael?
Rich, I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. What was the scene like in Western New York? You're sitting up there with Ian in that stadium. Can you paint the word picture for me,
It was even unbelievable prior to getting up in the booth. And we left the hotel, and it was about the GPS told us 18 minutes to get to the stadium. And an hour and 10 minutes, we were still circling the stadium trying to get through the crowd. And the cool thing to me is, Lambeau is considered an iconic place, like Wrigley or, pick your spot, right?
Sure, right.
And it should be. It is iconic. But I had goosebumps going into this game because even though they're going to rip down this stadium, you're driving through these neighborhoods, and I mean neighborhoods, and people are parking their cars for $10 or $20. There's Bengals jerseys, Buffalo Bills jerseys. It's starting to snow. People are drinking beers, cooking bratwurst, and I'm thinking the environment is every bit as cool as Lambeau, and it is. And I just got a huge kick out of being able to be a part of something like that.
Did you ever play in that stadium, Mike? I'll take a shot at that question. Did you play there? In Buffalo?
No.
Never did?
No.
Never got up there?
Never.
Okay.
I called a couple Thursday night games there for NFL Network.
Right, back in the day.
Yeah, with Nessler. But that's about it.
Okay, and you called this game with Ian Eagle. To me, the Bills are just lacking a run game or, a pass rush that's significant. I don't – what's the missing gear to you, having seen the Bills and this now being a postmortem conversation in Western New York with the Bills winding up way short of the Super Bowl championship a lot thought was coming this year, Mike?
Yeah, it's hard to put your finger on, Rich, because you say they don't have a run game, yet they were number 7 in the league in running the football. They were number 7 passing the football. So they had true balance in the regular season. When you add up a top 10 in both those, they were number 2 in points scored. And their defense was in top 10 in just about every category. So it's hard to sit there and say, what's wrong with this franchise. And I think, you and I have talked about this before in the media. I think we jump on and off bandwagons way too quickly. People are worried about the future. I think Josh Allen's 26 years old. What I would say is that, Josh Allen is a top 4 or 5 quarterback in that league all day long. He's got to take care of the football more. He fumbled it 16 times this year. He only lost 6. But to give you a comparison, he put it on the ground 16 times. Joe Burrow put it on the ground 6 times. You got to take care of the football. It's just hard to sit here and say, I'll tell you one thing they did miss, and that is Von Miller.
Mm-hmm.
They have a really solid defensive line of big body types that can push a pocket, but when they lost that twitchy edge guy, they lost a lot. And I think that showed up as soon as Von got hurt. So when you're saying that, what are they missing? I think a twitchy edge guy is critical. Their back end was beat up all year long, corners and safeties. They were down, by the end of the game the other day, Rich, special teams guys were playing safety for them. They were down to no safeties. So I think that took a little bit of gas out of them also.
Well, I guess the running game that I'm referring to would be a running game from an actual running back. And so I guess I should have been more specific. And because to me, when you're asking Allen to run it and throw it, that also puts him in the mentality of having to do it all by himself. And that's maybe where he makes some of these throws, right? If he's always in this mindset of I'm being asked to be the engine here and also the main thrust of every phase, not special teams or defense, then I'm going to make a throw that I maybe shouldn't. Is that fair, Mike?
Yeah, I think if your quarterback gets into that mode, it's fair. I'm not sure that was his mode in most games. I thought I saw each year an advancement in him getting a little bit better and learning how to get down and take care of himself and know when to throw the football away. Now, that's contrary to what I just said a moment ago, because he had 22 turnovers in 17 games heading into Cincinnati. He played a clean game until the end when he threw an interception
right,
trying to make a play. It was basically out. But I get your point, Rich. I mean, Devin Singletary and James Cook, between them had about 12 or 1,300 yards rushing. So would it help to have a more consistent A back? Maybe. Don't disagree with that. But I like both those backs. I really do.
Mike Mayock here on the Rich Eisen Show. Let's talk Burrow, Mike. I mean, stone cold, blooded, quarterback assassin. And he is growing into exactly that. He's now going to go to Kansas City. He hasn't lost to Mahomes. I mean, what he is doing for Cincinnati is just off the charts. I'm wondering, from your evaluation, I believe that was your second draft when you were in Vegas, your evaluation of Burrow, even though you knew you had no shot at him, is it beyond even what you had evaluated or everyone was evaluating of him, Mike?
Yeah, I think so. I think everybody thought he was the number one player in the country, and he was. I think we all agreed with that. We all thought he was going to be a top-level quarterback, but to be honest with you, 3 years in, he's even better than I ever thought he could be. It's funny, Rich. I left the hotel in Buffalo yesterday morning, and I was checking out, and Joe Burrow's dad came over to say hi. And he was a coach.
Yep.
And I said, Mr. Burrow, did you ever coach Joe yourself? He said, no, I was, and he went kind of through the litany of colleges he had been at, Iowa State and Washington, and which I kind of knew his bio. And he said, but I never got my hands on him that way. And I said, look, you hear this from everybody, so I know it doesn't mean anything, but I watch a lot of tape, and your kid is friggin' special. I mean, he's different. And he just laughed and kind of said, yeah, we've known that for a while. He is. The thing I love about him, Rich, is that no matter what you throw at him, and you talk about, I don't have a run game, or I got 3 new offensive linemen, or whatever, that conversation is, he just quietly, in his own mind, and by the way, he has an edge to him, which I really like too. It borders on cocky, and I like it a lot. I'd love to be his teammate. He had 3 linemen out yesterday, and during the season, he got the ball out in an average of 2.55 seconds, which was number 2 in the league. Okay? The other day, he got it out in under 2.5. So his solution was, okay, I got 3 linemen down. I'll just get it out a little more quickly. And it doesn't get to him. It doesn't make him hurry up. It doesn't make him make bad throws. It doesn't make him turn the ball over. He's way more athletic than people want to even talk about. But when he needs to run, I think his when they beat Kansas City, I think he ran it 11 times. He does I guess the best way to put it in one sentence is he does whatever is necessary to win the football game.
And it's no surprise that he's a son of a coach. I mean, and so is Jalen Hurts too, right? You are. So you're a perfect person to ask this. Like, what does that mean? I mean, how does that translate into success when you are one of those at the quarterback spot, do you think, Mike?
I think you just grow up differently, Rich. I can't speak for them, but most of the quarterbacks I've talked to that are coaches' sons, we all kind of grew up in similar fashion philosophically, and that is, by the time I was 8, I was watching film with my dad. I was literally doing the cut-ups by the time I was 10 or 11, where I had to cut film, splice it together, and we'd watch it together for his game that week. And by the time I got to the high school team, I was 14 years old. I had just turned 14. I was a freshman in high school, and I knew the offense and defense better than anybody on our team that had already been in the system. And I'm not bragging about that. It was just the way I grew up. I went to every game he went to scout. I took, he had me. And that's how these other guys grew. Jalen Hurts and I talked about it the year he was in the draft. I spent some time with him, and we talked about that common denominator. And, Burrow's just a guy where nothing bothers him, and I mean nothing. And what does he want to do after he beats your ass? He wants to light up a cigar and talk about it. I love him.
He does. It's so simple, but it's so rare. It's exactly right. He beats your ass, and I'll light a cigar up, and then, but And you could call it cocky, but how could anyone have a problem with that? I mean, it sucks to be on the business end of it, to be very, I'm sure. But
how about hey Rich? How about he's 2 minutes after beating Buffalo and he's getting interviewed by I think it was Tracy Wolfson.
Yeah.
And his first comment is, well, I guess we're going to have to give a lot of refunds back.
Yeah, better have those refunds ready. Yep, exactly right. He had that in the chamber. He had it ready to go, and obviously Kansas City is a team that is on full alert. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Mike Mayock here on the Rich Eisen Show. So let's talk about those two other teams, starting with Philadelphia first. They made the playoffs last year. They get one and done. Hurts comes back. He's getting a full year again. They add A.J. Brown on draft day. Holy crap, was that a big move? But why do you think it's all working like this in Sirianni's second year? What's your sense of the secret sauce and how it's now spit out into hosting an NFC Championship game coming off of a boat racing of the Giants, Mike?
Well, as you know, I'm from Philly,
yep.
And I'm sitting right now about a 20-minute drive down to the stadium, and we hosted the Eagles last year in Vegas. And I knew I could never come home if we didn't beat them. And we beat them pretty easily in Vegas last year. And at that point, they had not really turned Jalen Hurts loose. And their running back was hurt, and they were kind of a team in transition, I think is how I would categorize it when I saw them in Vegas last year. They went on to win several games after we beat them, and they made the playoffs at 9-8. But it was a borderline playoff team. But Hurts got better at the end of the season, and I remember talking to the media around here. I talked to Howie Roseman. Right, I went down to training camp before the season started, and I complimented Howie on the job he did. I just said, look, you've got a top 3 to 5 offensive line. You've got now with the move you made at wide receiver, you got a top 3 to 5 group at wideout. Your running back is special when he's healthy. Your tight end is special when he's healthy. You've got as good an offensive group of personnel as any team in the league. We're going to find out. You're going to find out what Jalen Hurts is. Is he the guy? Is he going to be a franchise guy or not? And to Jalen Hurts' credit and that coaching staff's credit, they made it work. They've taken advantage. To me, great coaching is putting your guys in a position to win, take advantage of what they do well, try to minimize what they don't do well. What they do with Jalen is they put him in a position. They're an RPO-based offense. He gets the ball out quickly. He's judicious with when he runs the football, both planned runs and unplanned runs. And if you're a defensive coordinator, they are such a pain in the butt to coordinate against because of the quarterback run game, because of the RPO game. They're so hard. If you just slip a little bit, they're going to the house. And on top of that, I think Howie Roseman is the executive of the year. I think that they've done an amazing, somebody ran for a couple hundred yards earlier in the year. And so what they do the following week, they signed Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. I mean, it's just been unbelievable. I think they're the most talented team in the league. And I think that quarterback is now a franchise quarterback.
And meanwhile, in Kansas City, Mike, the other 1 seed, they're hosting. We're not in the trainer's room. You're not. Or collectively, we are not. But all that said, we can probably be rest assured that Mahomes is not going to be the full Mahomes, and all of his movements and all of his magic that come from his movements and his ability to throw off platform and things of that nature will be compromised. What do you think is going on in Andy Reid's mind right now as we're talking, Mike?
Oh, Andy's one of my favorite people in the world, and I think he's one of the best coaches I've ever been around. And his offensive creativity is off the charts. Some of the stuff they do offensively is just to have fun, like when they did that
ring around the road.
Oh
my gosh, the snow globe.
And,
right.
Travis Kelce lines up at quarterback in an inverted wishbone. I can just see these guys on Wednesday and Thursday giggling at practice after having so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to the serious business of what happens if Mahomes is limited because of his high ankle. And I think Andy will be real creative. I'm blown away by how nobody can cover Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
I don't think that's talked about enough. This is interesting, Rich. I've got a text chain with 12 of my teammates from Boston College, and we get together every summer. And the other day, one of the guys who played in the NFL texted. He was a linebacker in the NFL. He texted, I'd love to know why teams can't double team him, stop him. Why is he always so good every game, especially the playoffs? And it's a great question. And you thought when Tyreek Hill was gone that people were going to be able to kind of step on Kelsey a little bit, give him more attention, and the opposite has happened. He's had his biggest year perhaps ever. So, I think job number one when you're playing Kansas City, especially if Mahomes is somewhat limited mobility-wise, is you got to find a way to limit him. I mean, that's job number one. And if Smith-Schuster or Justin Watson or Valdez-Scantling, if they beat you, that's okay. But don't let Travis Kelce beat you. And obviously Andy Reid's very aware of that. And, this kid, Kadarius Toney, who the Giants got rid of,
right?
He's kind of an explosive X factor to me. I'm anxious to see if he makes a couple plays, see if they get the ball in his hands quickly in some of those bubble screens or jet sweeps. But I just think Mahomes, you saw what he did in the second half. He just adjusted. He limped around the field and beat you. And he's kind of like the Burrow conversation. I don't think he feels like he needs to be at 100% to whoop you. And I think he'll slide around in the pocket. He might not be able to sprint at full speed, but he'll slide around and make plays. And I fully believe that.
So your best guess on Super Bowl 57 would be what, Mike? I'm putting you in a sports talk radio box here. What do you got for me?
I have no idea. I think the four best teams are in the Final Four, which is really cool. And, it's a cliche, but
turnovers? You're going to go turn whoever turns it over? I mean, honestly,
yeah.
I totally get it. I know why you would say that. Because, again, I mean, Dallas and San Francisco was tied going into the fourth quarter. I mean, anything can happen once you get out there and in the crucible of a game, which is why everybody thinks that maybe the Niners are in trouble because of a kid so green at quarterback, right? But
enacted it. I mean, aside from the first half in the rain 2 games ago where he was a little bit off, he sure doesn't look like a rookie to me, right?
Right. No doubt. Wow. So what's your best guess, though? I'll circle back one more time. What's your best guess, Mike? What do you got for me?
That is such a Rich Eisen.
Thank you, sir. There. Come on now. Come on. This is not our first rodeo. Come on now.
So on the NFC side, Philly, San Fran, they're the 2 best teams in the NFC. I just made the statement that I think Philadelphia has more talent than anybody in the league. Mm-hmm. So I would stand by that. Okay. I think San Francisco, I think their physicality is going to give Philadelphia a test. They're so physical and tough in their run game. But I would say that I would give the edge at home to Philly. Mm-hmm. And that other game, I liked what Zach Taylor said today when talked about media wanted him to talk about beating Kansas City 4 times in a row, and he said we don't have to beat them 4 times in a row. You just have to beat them once. And I think Kansas City probably is favored. I think, in all honesty, I'm kind of on the Cincinnati train. I love Burrow. I think you're talking about two of the best 3 quarterbacks in football. I like Cincinnati, and on another train, Rich, I don't know why Lou Anarumo is not getting any kind of love to be a head coach. I don't get that at all. I thought he did another great job last week.
He certainly did. And, man, Burrow, you're right. It's just amazing to watch him blossom into what he's doing. And him versus Mahomes is going to be amazing. And then the NFC Championship game as well. Mike, thanks for the time. Let's do this again. I miss talking to you and hearing, picking your brain. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Rich.
That's the man, Mike Mayock, right here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.